Hello everybody, Bruce here with a video that's going to demonstrate how to create records from a form using PHP and MySQL. Now, I'm on a page here that you're going to be creating, okay? And as you can see, it says create a record. Now, I'm not using this page right now because trying to incorporate what I'm about to show you into this page right now will be a little difficult, but we will be adding, okay, in another video, the create button here, which is going to take you to this page here or something like it, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is demonstrate the functionality, and then we'll walk through the code. Now, I'm not going to give you the code. I'm going to have you watch the video, push stop, push pause, rewind, fast forward, and whatever it takes. But I want you to focus on the core concepts and the fundamentals here about developing a page to do what I'm about to show you. So right now I'm on a page that has a form, and it has the fields from the student table, right? And if I hit create record, right, it says here the following errors were detected. And it says a first name is required, a last name, a student ID, an email address, etc. And if I go in here and I start typing, say, Joe, and I hit create record, right, you'll notice that there's one less error, right? And I'll say Joe Tucker, and I'll click create record. And you can see they're starting to disappear, and I'll hit 0007 because that's a valid number, and I'll type in joe@joe.com, and his phone number is 555-123-4567. And now I'll hit create record. And notice how the form was sticky, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that, but the fields were sticking. And now I'll hit create record, and it says success. I stored that data for you, and notice the fields here are now empty on the form. And if I go here and I click on the link here, here it is, joe@joe.com, student ID 7, with a phone number there that I entered in, right? And then, of course, I can use the prior lab to delete the record, which I just did, right? And I'll go back here, I'll enter one more. I'll say the student's name is Coffee, and their last name is Cup. Their student ID, I don't know, is 6767. And their email address is Bruce, and their phone number is 111-111-1114, right? And I'll hit create record, and success, it's done, right? Now, let me show you what happens if I try to enter that record, say again. See, the student ID there is 8. So let's go, let's see. Well, that's Tucker. That's not the one I just entered. What was the one I just entered? What was the one I just entered? Let's see if we can find it here. Oh, it was a different ID, right? There it is, 6767, coffee cup. Got worried. Woof. Okay, so let's try to enter that one again, 6767, right? So I'll even enter a different name. I'll say cereal bowl, right? Student ID 0008. Email does not matter @gmail.com. And then the phone, I'll put, just a bogus number for now, and I'll hit create record. And notice it says, I'm sorry, but I could not save that record for you. That's because it tried to insert a record with a duplicate student ID, and it failed, okay? That's the behavior that we want, right? So if I change that, say to another number, and I'll just go 1112, and I'll hit create record. Done. Success. I've added that data for you. So let's go into the code. Okay, now a lot of code here. It looks like a lot, but it really isn't. Okay, I'm using embedded styles. I can, you can't. You know about that, right? So I'm just using it here so I don't have to switch tabs. Now, at the top of the page, I have some HTML, which says H1 and H2. Then I have my require function, my require for the includes MySQLi connect.inc.php. You all should know about that now. I created 2 variables that I wound up needing for the logic, and the first one is errors. And I'm assuming that I don't have any errors when I go to click on Save the Data, the button. But if I do, right, I'll set that to true, and then I'll use that variable later on in the logic. And it wasn't until I started writing the code that I figured out I needed those variables. And then I decided to store the text for each of the errors, right? You must enter a first name, you must enter a last name, whatever that stuff is, in an array. And anytime I got an error, I would add an element to the array, and then later on I would just have a for each loop to iterate through the array and display all of the error messages. So on line 30 here, what's going on here is I'm checking to see if somebody posted the form. Okay? If the server request method was post, then I have some things that I need to tend to. And the first thing, and again, all these are the same, they're just for different fields. I'm saying, is the first, the field that has a name attribute, right, a value of first, is that empty? Okay, is it empty? If it is, then I use array push to push onto the array's text variable some HTML, right? A paragraph tag and a first name is required. I could have been fancy and done a list here, but I didn't. And then I have the variable $errors equals true, because yes, I did encounter an error. Else, if everything was cool, that you had data in there, right, then I just grab the value of the first name, right, from the field, and I assign it to the variable $first. And again, I repeat that logic for each of the fields, and I push on to the array if there was an error. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I'll scroll down slowly so you can see what's going on here. So on line 64, I'm saying to myself, hey code, did you have any errors, right? Because by default, the errors was false, and if the logic above set an error to true, we don't want to perform any SQL because we had an error. And for now, I'm going to jump down right here to line 80, right? And that's where I say, well, obviously we can't proceed to insert that data into the database table above, right? We need to echo out the errors, and that's what I do on lines 81 through 87, this stuff right here. Okay, I just for each through the errors text array, and I just echo stuff out. I added some additional textual information before the loop just to make the errors more readable. Okay, so assuming that we had all of the data, if this was a true, right, true thing here, if we didn't have any errors, if not errors, right, so that's going to say if not errors, right? So errors was false by default, right? So check it out. So if we didn't have any errors, okay, we can go on and proceed here and say on line 66, $SQL, and by the way, I broke my SQL up into 2 lines here. And I did give you a link. Let me just go back up there. Sorry for this. Let me just show you here. Right here, I gave you a link to, on W3 Schools, the SQL insert command and how that works. Okay, the syntax for it. So let's buzz back down here. Okay, yeah, right here. So here I have insert into students table, and then the column names. Okay, column names don't get quotes around them, just so you know. I did leave a space at the end here on line 66 because I'm going to append, right, this line on line 67 to the previous value of $SQL. That's the .equals operator. And then values, and then I have in parentheses here all, and quote, by the way, $first, $last, in quotes. Now, $ID is a numeric value, and it doesn't go in quotes. Okay, I didn't include quotes there. And then $email in quotes and $phone. So I then said, hey, database, because that's coming from the include file, query using the SQL that you built on lines 66 and 67. Again, if you're having issues, I always have a echo $SQL here to see that my SQL is properly formed. And then I say here, if the result came back as false, right, if not true, I'm sorry, but I could not save that record for you. Else, I must have been able to insert the record correctly, and I echo out success. I stored that data for you. I'm going to enter there we go, a nice exclamation point. And then I unset each of the variables, $first, $last, $ID, $email, and $phone. Now, I'll explain that to you kind of right now, right? So we covered this. So here is the form, right, that always gets displayed. There's no logic around it at this point. It's always being displayed. And then I set the form action to the name of the script, and mine happens to be creating records.php. Method equals post. And then let me do this. Let me shrink it down a little bit so you can see. There you go. So I have labels and I have the fields, right, for each thing, for each of the fields, first name, last name, student ID, email, phone, and a submit button here, right? Now what I want you to take a look at is the value here. I said this is sticky, right? And I have my PHP tags inside the value, attribute value. And I have this thing here that may look a little funky, right? It says echo, and then it says is set $first. So is $first set? Okay? Because you're going to want to keep it sticky if you were not able to insert the record. Now, this question mark and then $first and then colon, and then this empty string here, this is called a ternary operator. And if you go look on line 95 here, you go look at the comparison operators on php.net. This is a way to write a nice compact if statement. So I'm going to echo out the result. It's going to say is set first. If it is set after the question mark, I'm going to display the value of $first. If not, I'm going to display nothing, an empty string. Okay? So again, you can see here, this is a nice shorthand way of being able to do the sticky form stuff. And again, if it's not set, it's going to put a blank. That means, and right here, right? This is where I said, yeah, dude, you inserted the data. So now you don't need those variables anymore. And then when the page gets down to here, it's going to say, yeah, that thing's not set. So I'm just going to display a blank. However, if it wasn't successful, over here, right, the insertion, that's where we display the errors, and we still have, right, the values up here that were set for the initial post. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scroll through the code so you can see it, and I want you to type this in. You gotta get in the habit of typing it in. And I could give you the code, but I know a lot of you, and I know the kind of mistakes I make, and I know the kind of mistakes you make, and they're kind of the same. So I'll continue to scroll through it so you can see what's going on here. And now I'm going to get to the form. Again, read the comments. I made the field sticky, and there you go. So I'm going to go one more time with the demo right here. Okay, if I hit create record, nothing. See, I display all these errors. And if I say Bruce, right, for the first name field, you'll see it says a first name is required, and now I'll hit create record. Gone. See, even if I do student ID and I do 1111, I do create record. See, notice the student ID is not here. It knows it has it. We haven't done any SQL yet because our logic has not allowed us to progress that far. We haven't met all the conditions. The flow of our logic is preventing, right, that SQL statement from being executed because the errors flag, right, the Boolean there is set to true because we have errors. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, hit me up on Slack, and have a good day.